Hey everybody, it's Shark Scrapper. Recently picked up these 3 power supplies, so I thought we'd dive into them and see what we can get out of them. Yeah, kind of heavy, so we know there's going to be some lead in there somewhere, so let's get the lead out. Well, this is kind of interesting. First time I've picked up one of these where it had the display and that it was functional and working. So it's telling me that the batteries are 85% charged, but the cord's been cut on this, so this is not a useful item. This is coming from an IT company, and they frequently do things like that. Plus, my agreement with them is that I'm not reselling as functional items. It's all scrap. But it's interesting to notice that there's power in those batteries, so you have to watch out for that. All right, turn you off. Oops, turn on. No AC, no action. I don't know what's going on there. Won't matter, because in a little bit we're going to have these batteries out of here. That happens. Wow, that's a big, heavy chunk of steel right there. All right, so here's our situation. Battery packs, transformer, control board. Relatively simple, very heavy. All right, let's do some cutting. Now, since I know that this is charged, I'm just going to be a little bit extra careful to make sure I'm on the rubber grips and I'm using one hand. Okay. And let's see, let's also cut the battery cords. That's not going to make that big a difference. Yep, there was a little sparky. A little sparky. Cool beanies. You couldn't see it because it was blocked, but that was definitely charged. And there's our battery pack. So these are going to go with the lead acid batteries to the yard. And we're good now. I'm not worried anymore because there's no more juicy left in here. Maybe that capacitor might have some juice left in it. All right, there's our potentially copper-bearing motor. We'll cut in and see if there's copper or aluminum windings in there. Get the ferrous block off of these. Throw this in with the number 2 insulated. So I'm waiting for a client to show up. The guy called me, he said he's got 50 computers and he's on the way. So he's asked me a few questions, so I'm comfortable that he's legit. So, low-grade board. Nothing very exciting about that. Now, if you're new to my channel, you should know that my yard does not require that I take off the plug-ends. So you're saying me just toss these in my bucket with my number 2 insulated copper wire. Your yard probably requires, because most yards do require that you take off the plug-ins, or they have a category with the plug-ins that's substantially less than regular number 2. With my yard, it's the same price. I'm fortunate in that respect, and it's still a good price too. It's you know, it's still a very competitive price for number 2. Certainly better than any of the other yards in the area. I think I may have left a circuit breaker on that one. That would not count as a plug-in. Let's see. Yeah, so that looks like an overload or a circuit protection. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off, because that would not be very fair to them. Even though they don't mind plug-ins, there's something doesn't feel right about that. I need to get another set of those really good crescent compounded snips to use over here at this workstation. I really like those. I've had these snips for a long time, cobalts, and they've worked really well, but they're not they're not compounded, but they work really well on heavier gauge wire that I sometimes run into, as well as the small stuff. So but I might replace these. All right, let's see now. It's a metal plate into the mailbox. That's something else that some of my new viewers, it's amazing how many new viewers we're getting, and I really appreciate y'all being here. So what some of my new viewers may not know is that I have a client who replaces mailboxes. So I get the mailboxes from them, and the steel mailboxes get kept, and I use those as buckets for the little nuts and bolts and washers and things of that nature. It's a way for me to repurpose something before it goes to the scrapyard. The aluminum mailboxes, we don't get a lot of those, but the aluminum mailboxes just go in as sheet. Nah, darn it, can't get to that one yet. Why? Because something's in the way. Not sure. Let's see. See if I need to take this faceplate off. What the fuck do I have to do that? I don't know. Well, that's exactly what I have to do. All right, get that last screw out the way. Now we have a nice low-grade power board. Let's see what this daughter card is. So that's a nice daughter card, actually. Oscillator, flat pack, tantalum capacitor, ICs. So this is going to go in my mid-grade, but I'm going to pull that tantalum capacitor real quick. Just take my little vice grips, grab hold of it, give it a twist, and there is the tantalum capacitor. I don't grab a lot of tantalums these days because most of what I'm doing is reselling, especially to boardsort.com. So a lot of times I don't even mess with pulling stuff anymore because it's just more valuable for me to send it on to board sort. But there's a lot of people that have no choice but to depopulate, or they're doing it as a hobby and for them it's fun to depopulate. So, copper. Let's go ahead and pop those off real quick. Those should come off pretty easily. Hey, you, get back here. Where do you think you're going? There we go. And this one's pretty cool because this is just coiled up, coiled line of copper here. So just give it a tug and it unspools. That's a ferrite core. You can put that in with your small screws and nuts and things. And then there you've got some number 2 copper. You can see it's got some sort of epoxy kind of varnish. I mean varnish kind of coating. That's all right. That's fine for number 2 copper. I got to stop doing this. You're trying to look at it and I'm shaking it all over the place. Now, for those of you that are serious micro scrappers, these are aluminum plates. They are welded, so you need to bust these off. These are coolers for MOSFETs. See, there's a MOSFET. So those are the coolers for the MOSFETs. These solenoids, switches, there may be little tiny bits of silver contact material in there. So, and then there might be brass or copper. So, some folks really like going after every little bit. You can pop off that flat pack easily enough. It's a low-grade board, so you're not devaluing it any more than it already is. All right, so there's an IC and a flat pack. So as long as you leave something on here for the yard, boom, low grade. Oops, wait a minute. I forgot. I'm separating my green low grades. So that's a green low grade power board, and I have a potential new buyer that wants me to keep these separate from the brown brittle boards. And this goes into a container that I have with a whole bunch of these. I am going to experiment at some point with a cement mixer and some slug weights in there. The idea being the cement mixer will turn around, the weights fall down, crush things like these toroids and other coils of copper and free the copper from the plastic and the ferrite. That's the idea. That's going to be a fun project. All right, we have one more board here. Just another low-grade board. Nothing to get too excited about. Oh, these kind of coils here, if you want to, let's see if I can get this one come off pretty easily. A lot of times the yards will take these as copper-bearing motors. So there's the low-grade board, and that could go in with my copper-bearing motors. All right, now we just have a chunk of ferrous. So right there you can see the brass that's inside the plugs. Might as well get it out. A lot of times it'll come out real easy. Of course, now that I'm recording this, it won't, because that's the way the scrap rolls. Like I said, a lot of times this stuff just pulls right out. Now, what are we doing here? So we've got clean brass, but right there is solder, which would make that part dirty. So we're going to cut that part off. Now we've got dirty brass, clean brass. So So is this brass worth going after? Well, I can't tell you what your time is worth. Look at how easy that one was. See? You see how it goes sometimes? Only you can decide what your time is worth. If you're a hobbyist and you're just doing this for the fun of it, then time really doesn't matter for you because, you know, you're just having a good time, right? I'm running a business, so for me, I have to always consider time. However, part of my business is making these videos, so, you know, for me, I need to, even though it might take me some extra time to get this stuff out, I'm making a video, so, you know, it's part of what I do. That can go into shred the way it is. Everybody's yard is a little bit different with respect to how clean they want the shred steel, how much plastic they'll allow. So I do a pretty good job. My yard has never had an issue with my shred. And my yard is very flexible too. I mean, there is no end of the junk that I have seen show up there. All right, now then, if these connectors have what some people like to call M&Ms on them, I cut those off and throw them in with my low grade. Because to me, that's just a component that would have been on a low grade board. Hell, I don't know, maybe I could even put it in with my mid grades, but to me, it seems fair enough on both parties to just chuck it in with the low grades. So, there we go. There's my clean brass. Put that over here with the brass. Get ready, almost time to dump that into the bucket. And then here's the dirty brass. Now let's see about this transformer. A lot of yards will buy these as copper bearing motors, but if it has aluminum windings, then it'll have to go as breakage. So I go in at the edge that has the wire sticking out. And then once I've gotten it to this point, I look down here and I see that all of the coils that are coming out look like copper wire, but you don't want to get faked out because that could very easily be coating. Oops. Do not point the knife at your body, shark. It's a great way to get hurt. So I just want to get a little more exposed here so that I can get a better idea what we're dealing with. There we go. Now I'm looking at the wire coming out of both the sets of coils in there. And I can take my file. Copper, copper. And copper, copper. Okay, so this is a copper bearing motor for my yard. Now, there's a lot of people that like to scrap these down even further to get the copper windings out of the ferrous. I'm not one of those folks. I got to keep things moving, so I don't mess around with that. No judgment on that. I mean, like I said, everybody scraps the way it works best for them. For me, I do not have that much time because I got a bunch of stuff that, mainly computers, PCs, which are my bread and butter, that I need to keep working on. So if you saw any of the tools here that I've used and you believe that they would be useful for your shop, I have an Amazon store that, and the link is in my description down below. If you follow that link to the Amazon store, there's a bunch of tools in there. There's also creator gear like cameras and things of that nature. If you buy while you followed that link, I get a small commission off of that, and I use that commission to go towards the Shark Scrapper Shark Adoption Project 2 for 22 campaign. So it's another way that you can help us adopt a shark and support the University of Miami's shark research and conservation programs. Additionally, a portion of those profits go towards UNICEF for helping the children of Ukraine. So it's a great way for you to help and get the tools that you need to do your scrapping. All right, everybody, we'll see you on the next one.